it has begun for the New York Rangers. Nick Holden goes to the Bruins. He's a UFA this summer. He makes 1.6 million currently. Going back to the Rangers, Rob O'Gara and a third-round pick in 2018. O'Gara is RFA this summer. He makes 925,000. He was a fifth-round pick in 2011. 6'4", 207 pounds. He's 24. He's only played 11 games in the NHL. I've seen a couple of his games for Boston this year that I can remember, and I like him. No points in his games that he played this year, but 24, 925,000, decent pickup, and that third round pick in this year's draft, and it's a deep draft. And as long as the Rangers draft well, who knows what that could turn out to be. Holden will join a blue line in Boston that needed a little bit of depth. The funny thing is, this shows, and again, this shows for people who are expecting their team to be able to trade whatever piece for a first rounder prospect player. I think the market softened a bit, and I think GMs are starting to resign themselves to the fact that maybe they're not going to get back what they had hoped to get for certain players. I'm not saying Nick Holden's were the first. That's not what I'm trying to say, but I'm saying that I think the market's going to be free flowing. We're going to see a lot of deals like this. O'Gara's a risk-free move for the New York Rangers, and they get a little younger. I think O'Gara has decent mobility. He doesn't really have the offensive upside, but really Nick Holden was on the downside anyways. I've seen Rangers fans wanting Holden traded for about a year. And this year for the Rangers, Nick Holden has 12 points in 55 games. Last year he had 34 points in 80 games. And he's gone from a plus 13 to a minus 3. I know plus minus doesn't mean anything except when it does. And I like the move from the Bruins' perspective. This shows the Bruins are kind of all in, but it shows that Don Sweeney's not going to be crazy about it. Don Sweeney's going to go out and get a solid number 5 or 6 guy, and I really believe that's where Holden's going to end up playing as 5 or 6. But the Bruins learned something in last year's playoffs, and I think that's part of the reason this move happens. Last year's playoffs showed that your defense can get decimated by injuries. Boston didn't have the depth to make up for that, had to put McAvoy in the lineup as a really young kid. Thankfully, he was ready. But the Bruins had to rely on depth they didn't really have, and they got eliminated in the first round. And then I'm sure Bruins management was watching as the Pittsburgh Penguins had enough depth to absorb those losses. A Nick Holden can jump up into top 4 if he needs to briefly and not overly hurt the Bruins. And I think Nick Holden needed a change of scenery as much as anybody. 356 games, all played with the Rangers. He had a solid career in New York. Let's see how long he lasts in Boston. This could just be a pure rental. This could be a guy who comes in Boston at the end of the year, goes, all right, well, Boreal we figure is ready, so in the fall we're going to go with him, and thanks for your help, Nick, but you're out of here. Or, if he plays well, and if Boreal needs more time in the minors, and he's a guy I mentioned because, top prospect, maybe he forces his way onto the blue line next year, but if he's not quite ready, then Holden is a decent guy to re-sign for a year. He's only at 1.6 million. He's not going to get I wouldn't think he'd get a raise, and yet I'm hearing the numbers around good brand, so my brain's kind of exploding. But yeah, it's a good move for Boston. It's a risk-free move for the Rangers. I think getting a third back is decent, along with a player who they may keep around as a utility defenseman. He can be your number 7 guy. He's capable of that. He's capable of playing. I think he was just a victim of a numbers game in Boston. Once McAvoy was ready, there was somebody who was going to get pushed down the depth chart, and I really think he would have been the guy who was up if McAvoy needed more seasoning in the minors, which he didn't need. But let me know what you guys think about the trade. Again, it's a risk move. I think both teams win in this one personally. But again, I want to know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And again, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.